What's up, guys? This is Kenny Buller on the Second Floor Podcast. For those of you who are tuning in and have been tuning in, you very well should be aware that this podcast is everything health and business focused, with myself focusing primarily on health. Myself and Omid bring to you a wide array of guests and tips and strategies surrounding how you can optimize your health and elevate your business to the next level beyond the 9-to-5 grind, from people who are finding a great balance between putting their health first and also crushing it in what they're doing on the business front. Today's guest, the one and only Pradeep Bala, has had over 8 competitions around the world in bodybuilding, with one of them being second place as a welterweight in Canada in 2019. He's somebody who not only competed in all of those competitions drug-free, he also managed to do them while balancing his corporate professional position at ATB Financial currently. He argues that the time and energy he spends in his craft as a bodybuilder has actually helped service him in becoming a more focused and determined professional in the corporate world. And that's huge. That is something where we discussed, arguably some people might find the amount of energy and time you put into your side hustle, or not even side hustle, your hobby might deter you away from the things you need to get done in your position. But I hope after you listen to this, you gain some clarity and understanding that if there's that hobby that you have and you love doing it, you still have the possibility of being able to become excellent at it while you're juggling the demands that work are putting on you. Because at the end of the day, yes, that is something that you have to prioritize, because that's what puts food on the table. And when it comes to some of the things we talked about, how to actually manage your time effectively, we gave some pretty awesome coaching tips on both ends. How to make sure you could turn the switch on or off depending on what you're doing. I understand, even for myself, there's so many light switches on at the same time. But really, when you sit down with Pradeep, you get to learn in the best possible way how to stay present. And taking a deep dive into, just certain ideologies around building a program to build big muscles when it comes to bodybuilding. When it comes to explaining why you should do certain exercises to a general population client. I mean, with the 2 hours that we spent together, we got to go deep on a lot of different concepts. One of them surrounding, let's say, all-encompassing this particular subject matter I studied in precision nutrition for my level 2 program, surrounding the wheel of excellence. It starts with a huge, deep-rooted sense of commitment, and it carries through with a good, strong sense of belief that you're able to accomplish whatever it is that you're about to commit to. Pradeep explains his opinions on what needs to be sacrificed and how you can apply and take the time to do certain things because it becomes the focus. And then afterwards, when you're done in a competition, you can go back to living more of a balanced lifestyle. So, you know what? You're going to have to take notes on this one. Take a seat back, listen to it on the way to work, and then come back, listen to it on the way back home. It's a long one, but surely you're going to gain a lot of clarity. Before we dive in, let's take a quote from the man Arnold Schwarzenegger himself. And he says, "I can hide my feelings under my muscles, definitely. I can hide them as long as necessary. And when I feel they could come out, I let them out. I think this is fantastic. It's great to have control over my mind. other people get mixed up. They can't control themselves. They can't go to work for a week, or they can't talk on the phone because they're crying. I can switch myself back and forth. When I'm training for a competition, I can be what some people call inhuman. But really, I think it's more like being superhuman. Then, after the competition, I could switch off again, be human, and very emotional, and so on. By the man, the myth, the legend, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Keep that quote in mind and be ready to take a ride on this episode. Here we go. We could actually dive right in. It's obviously, thanks, Omid. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on here, Pradeep. With season 2 right now, you're somebody who reflects so much of both of the entities we're focusing on. That's the health aspect of what, I'm really focusing on, and with Omid focusing on the business side. Mm-hmm. And I figured with today's conversation, we could talk a little bit about both experiences that you have at play with bodybuilding, and then balancing all of that with your entrepreneurial journey or your intrapreneurial journey through working with ATB right now.
Sure.
There's one statement I want to make that I find is based on your mission statement. Your mission statement, when I read it, it resonated with me so much because it's so similar to mine. And when you said that you want to empower Fortune 500 executives to look and feel as good as they would if they were capable of being on a fitness magazine, that's huge. Because I personally work with entrepreneurs. I love working with entrepreneurs because I feel like they have a certain drive that they bring into their work that they can take into their fitness goals. And it's why I want to look at how that came about for you, why you care so much personally as well to take CEOs, executives, high-level managers in the capacity of a business and let them know that, hey, with how hard you're grinding in your job, it actually is possible to be in the best damn shape of your life, to look like you could be on a fitness magazine.
Of course. So what I find quite interesting with really high caliber, high level and career orientated men and women is that and you said very correctly, that word drive is there. The drive is there to meet specific business objectives, key performance indicators or KPIs. They're so driven to meet top line numbers no matter what the business endeavor is, they're so driven to survive and make it within the marketplace, to deliver to the end consumer. And their mentality is shaped, and especially if you're an entrepreneur, I feel, and if you have that capital, and for them it's here's my capital, and I need to deliver on this end product. I need to survive as an entrepreneur. That's their mentality. I personally don't know what it feels to be an entrepreneur, but I can understand where their mindset comes from to pursue resiliency, determination, to really thrive because they're passionate about their business endeavor objective. Using those mindset traits can easily be transferred into health and fitness for that same individual. It's just about them understanding to create that bridge and developing the tools to then know that they too can just transfer that mentality and just shift focus to their fitness goals.
Yeah, wow. It's funny how we spend every single day, looking at seeing what needs to get done, and we could easily take that into consideration with our own bodies. And you mentioned a really key thing there. I love that, KPI. It's something that we talk a lot about in the corporate world, right? And that's key performance indicators. In your perspective, from a general population standpoint, right? Maybe someone who doesn't aspire to be like you in winning these national level bodybuilding competitions, but they want to be fit. What would be that person's key performance indicator for their health? What are some determinant factors that you believe are like, hey, these are some things that we should focus on building?
From the initial set of clients I've had the opportunity to work with, it seems to me that attention and time management is very big. It will be trying to improve the amount and quality of their sleep, adequate nutrition, and simple consistency with their weight training schedule. It doesn't have to be rocket science, but I feel it's honestly I find that the biggest thing for general pop is time management. It's often individuals telling me they don't have the time, when in reality it comes down to understanding where someone has prioritized a lot of attention, and it perhaps doesn't need so much priority level, and instead it can be diverted to something else. And looking at their prioritization in their daily life schedule can then show them, hey, you know what, I actually have a bit more time here, and maybe I can sleep more here. Maybe I can do some meal prepping. Maybe I can work on mobility. Maybe I can weight train. So I find time management, their sleep, nutrition, and their just consistency with those basic factors will already help them surpass what they thought was impossible.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I really like actually dissecting what you do on a day-to-day basis and what should be done at a particular time. It's worked wonders for even me personally. Even when my director asked me, Kenny, like, you should be here 9 to 6. Okay, that's your work life. What needs to be done at what time? You know, if 9 to 12 is your management time, okay, well, which meetings are going to be done through that every single day at that time? And then I took that concept and I also, with my clients, recognized that, okay, well, let's do this outside work. We focus so much on managing our time and expectations through what we do in our job. Why don't we do that for our own life? And I sat down with my clients. This was when I first started online coaching. This was during the pandemic. And I just said, listen, why don't we just, for the first week, start recording what you're doing on every hour block? If you want to go that much further, go every half hour block. Just see. Start recording. What are you doing? You know, if you're looking on your phone, okay, record it. Don't be judgmental by it. Just know that that's what you did at that time, right? Okay, you went, hung out with friends. Okay, how long did that take? Then after that, we looked and we assessed. How much time are you spending in the non-negotiable things that just have to get done? Right? You got to get ready. You have to eat. You have to do your laundry. Just things like that that go into this needs to get done. Well, how much percentage-wise are you spending on the things that you could do less of to replace what you should do more of? Right? That's going back to your point about being productive, using your time wisely, managing those expectations for yourself. And then those are the habits that we now are going to optimize. Let's recognize that, okay, laundry, getting ready, it's going to take that long. It's okay. Let it take that long. You've been so used to doing that. But now with everything else, if you're spending an hour a day on social media, let's cut that in half. Now you have an extra half hour. What are you going to do with it? You know, this is where we go back to your goals. I want to read more. Oh, I want to sleep more. Oh, I want to do that workout, but I don't have time for it. But hey, now we just won another 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's really neat that you bring that up, because it's so easy to say, oh, okay, I got to manage my time, but how do you do it? And that's what's worked for me personally, is just doing the same thing at the same time, and then looking at seeing with the free time I have, what am I doing with it? What are some maybe strategies you have that worked for you outside of that? Anything outside the box, or even things that you've shared with your clients, Pradeep?
Yeah, accountability is very big for me. Accountability. My clients are accountable to everything they do. Even if I just don't discuss my specific clients, if I just look at my daily work, even on a daily basis, weekly basis, I practice immense amount of ownership and immense amount of accountability to everything I do. So if I am there sleeping in, I then will tell myself, listen, you slept in an extra hour. Understand that something else within your day has to get rushed. if you want to fill in ABC, XYZ, 1, 2, 3. Ownership at every single point in my daily journey or my client's daily journey is quite important to digest, because once we own every single action, then we can say, oh, right, this is why I could get this done. This is why I couldn't get this done.
Yeah.
This is why, damn, I missed a meal. I mean, this is why, because if I don't want to rush this part of the process, something has to give. What has to give? Do I not spend as much time with my partner? Do I have to not sleep as much? Like what has to give? So it comes down to, what are the expectations I or you or the clients or anyone has in their daily schedule. What do you expect of yourself to achieve? Based on that, how realistic are your expectations given your actions and ownership of those actions? So for me, my strategy is extreme ownership. I am 100% accountable to every single thing I do. In order to make this podcast happen, I've had to work a bit quicker in the early part of my day. I've had to work on client projects a bit quicker, a little bit faster, wake up a bit earlier just to make this happen. And so it takes a bit of balancing and juggling throughout everyone's schedule, because as you've said very clearly prior, life throws different things at you. Things have to get done. But if you want to do other side projects, work on fitness, do lovely projects like this podcast here, it takes a bit of balancing and understanding great time management.
It really does. And there's such a beautiful element of self-talk that you just described. There's that voice inside our head where we have to be aware of what questions are we asking ourselves. You know, how much of what we are asking is actually allowing us to make those adjustments. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we would tell ourselves that, no, this needs to happen and it needs to happen right now. Well, you just made a great point. You slept in an extra hour. So what? Great. Let's look at it like, okay, maybe I needed that. Mm-hmm. It was a long week. Yeah. But okay, that's an extra hour that I needed in my day. Yeah. And I don't want everything to feel rushed. What's maybe the one thing that will be rushed, mm-hmm. or that I can just reschedule? Yeah. And that power of rescheduling, the power of knowing and recognizing that you're not pressured to do something at that moment because you know now that you may not be able to perform at the best of your ability, being honest with that, telling yourself that. I mean, let's be honest, you don't want to reschedule everything in your life constantly. You don't want to be that guy. Mm-hmm. However, knowing if you're not, let's just say, 120% committed in the first place, then everything else is sort of going to fall through the cracks. And this is something that's pretty beautiful, Pradeep, because it reminds me of something I wanted to even bring up. I feel like it's a good way into structuring out how you've balanced so much success in your career, in your 9 to 5, with you being such a relentless competitor as a bodybuilder, mm-hmm. with the national championships you've won. I know for a fact that if we look at that from the retrospect of the Wheel of Excellence, this is something that I just recently studied on my level 2 precision nutrition program. And it pretty much goes through the following steps. It says, to achieve any level of high excellence, you need to, number 1, be committed. That commitment has to be there. Next to the commitment has to be a strong sense of belief towards you knowing that this is something you want to do right now and you believe you can achieve it. The third thing is have laser focus. So make sure you understand that what is going to be priority is going to come first. Everything else comes second to that. And then the next is have a level of deep-rooted positivity, right? There's going to be some of those setbacks, in which I know we want to talk about, that come into play. How are you going to overcome those situations? And then a little bit of a deep analysis on sitting yourself down and evaluating, okay, what have I done so far? What has distracted me? It kind of goes back to looking at those factors that just don't need to be there and replacing it with what you told yourself you're going to commit to. And I want to just kind of throw all that out on you right now and see from your perspective how much a deep level of commitment initially for whatever it is that you wanted to achieve for the past while, has sprung about everything else that has come into this wheel of excellence that I bring up.
One, thank you for sharing what you've learned in your second stage of your certificate for precision nutrition. I think the way you've described that wheel of excellence is very important for many to understand. Where do I even begin?
Mm-hmm.
Let's just start with commitment. For me, I'm trying not to use general words here. I'll say it for myself. When it comes down to meeting any objective that I wholeheartedly want to see myself achieving, it's very black and white. It's 100% or it's not there. There's no gray area. I'll try. No,
No half-assing.
there's no half-assing. Say for instance, if I look at my fitness career and pursuing national level shows, it's if I want to be the best in the country in my weight class, these are the steps required, and there's no excuse.
These are the what, sorry?
These are the steps required.
Yeah.
These and as you've said, these are non-negotiable parts of the process. There is no excuse, because I do have a mentor, Jordan Peters, out in England. I think he's in Manchester, Birmingham. So I'm accountable to him, and he commands an immense amount of work ethic out of me, and so I have no choice but to perform. I don't do this by myself, and it's good to have accountability outside. And so because he has told me these are non-negotiable to get things done, if you want to be a top-tier drug-free athlete in your sport, this is the reality, Pradeep. You need to accept this, and this is the expectation I will have of you. And here we go, 1, 2, 3, let's go. It's straight into the fire. That's how I best work.
That's that commitment,
Right?
that you're ready to make.
That is 100% commitment. There's no wavering, and there's no excuse to not get the work done, because what I'm trying to achieve, I believe, it just demands so much of me, and we can talk about that later, and my character development in 2019. But if I bridge that into work commitments, whether it's meeting client expectations, raising the bar, meeting marketing objectives, or understanding why this is the creative strategy we've taken, understanding the process, abiding by process, improving the creative output, improving audience engagement. It is paying attention to every part of the process to meet client expectation, and then over deliver and produce amazing work. It goes back and forth across this bridge, and I feel like I've taken a lot from my fitness and bodybuilding competitions.
Tied that in.
And it's just tied into work, and it's just that drive of this is what has to get done in order to meet this level of excellence. We're going to do it as a team, and we'll all work together, and because we all keep each person accountable and practice radical candor, we'll get it done.
For someone who's in such a, let's just call it an independent sport, it's very beautiful for you to bring that up, because it goes to show that no matter what you're doing, no matter what type of competition you're putting yourself out there on, even if it's just you up on the stage smiling, with the best physique possible you've ever been able to create for yourself, you knew deep down that you couldn't have done it on your own. It is just you up there, and it takes an insane amount of sacrifice that you had to make. People had to tell you need to do it, but guess what? It was up to you to make it happen. It's just really beautiful that you respect the process of mentorship and having a team behind your back to make that happen.
100%. For anyone who doesn't know me, I am my own worst critic. I will run myself into the ground unless I have a third set of eyes to look at me and say, Pradeep, whoa, slow down, or go a bit more, or go harder in your process. I need mentorship to make sure I am on the right course and at the right pace.
And it's unique you say that, because for some people they argue that them being their worst critic for themselves works in their favor. Would you say it doesn't for you? You kind of have a mentor to, in a sense, slow you down and tell you that you're doing everything you need to right now. Stop beating yourself up.
I'll say that being my worst critic has pros and cons. I believe the pros are immense accountability. I understand, right, Pradeep, you messed up here, you did this great, and or understand you're still learning the process. Don't be so hard on yourself. Hence, worst critic, quote unquote. My mentor helps me understand this is what you can expect within this process. Your expectation is way too high, or you can do much better. He helps me gauge and he helps me gauge what kind of expectation I ought to have. So having both at the same time, I feel is quite nice.
Yeah, it creates a good balance. With you going into bodybuilding so young, Pradeep, you started at 16 years old. It reminds me of you can say, argument behind your body's still growing at that age. I'm sure you can share some dialogue around maybe how intense your training routine was at that young of an age. It just, someone comes to mind when I learned that you trained that young. He's actually very, very close in our life between me and Omid, just to keep him private. I'm sure he wouldn't mind if I mentioned him, but, just permission aside. He is at the gym every day. He's 16 years old. Kid's a stud, right? He's so hungry and relentless in his approach of bodybuilding, right? Like, he's shaping his body right before my eyes. And he just started this new transformation program he's on in being more cut and lean and cutting his weight down. And he wants to make sure by 18, he wants to be in that next competition for bodybuilding. I just noticed there's so much of that drive that's only going into bodybuilding in his life.
Sure.
I overheard him say, and again, this is back to balance, right? Yeah. He goes to my client, who's a good buddy of his, and he says this, "Hey, man, when are you going to pass me the modules?" I was like, "Modules? Maybe these guys are talking about school." He's like, "Oh, man, I'll get to it. I'm sorry." So I go to my client. I'm like, "What modules is he talking about?" He's like, "Oh, he just wants the answers of my test on our assignment."
Sure.
So I go to him. I'm bugging him. I've been there. I did the same thing in high school, right? Quick little, let's just get this from a buddy so we don't have to worry about it. But I had to tell him something. I was like, "Hey," I go to him. He's like, "What's up?" I was like, "What, you're not doing your homework?" He's like, "Man, I don't have time." Right back to that. And I'm like, "Yeah, because your ass is in here every day and you're grinding, and I bet this is the one and only thing you could focus on." He's like, yeah, I'm too busy trying to get the gains, man. Right? Yeah. Like 16-year-old stud. And I was like, "Man, if you put half the amount of effort you did that you're putting into this in school, you wouldn't have to call your buddy and ask for those answers." And I know, sure enough, I did the same thing then. I can't be a hypocrite, but I did need people to tell me that then. So that way, when I did go into university, it was like, hey, it's just me now. I'm not going to ask buddy for answers. I got to really figure this stuff out if I want to know a subject. So it's really interesting. I bring that up because I want to know what your mentality looked like when you started your journey as a bodybuilder. What got you into it, and how did you balance that level of, that love you started getting for it with, oh, I got to get grades, oh, I got to be there for my friends, I got to have a life. Like, what did that all look like on your end? Because I want other 16-year-old kids to listen to this. I'm going to send this episode to Buddy. I'm going to be like, listen, let's hear from someone who was in your shoes not too long ago.
Yeah. Not too long ago. It was like 15, 16 years ago. Okay, let's just imagine.
Pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID, not too long ago. Circa 2006.
Now you aged yourself.
Now I really aged myself. I mean, like when I was 16, I didn't know any better. I'll be really honest. I didn't know what I was doing in the gym.
Trial and error.
It was trial and error. When I was in 2006, mid-2006, I was 16, and I'd finished high school early, and coming from a family who really prides himself on education first. Nothing else matters. That being the very typical South Indian mentality. So I was there in McGill at age 16. I was in uni at age 16.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
I began uni at 16. And so I was there this fresh youngling who was always protected by the family, and then now I'm here in this brash open world, and I'm just seeing guys at the gym like just haul weight, jump squats with 405 because they were playing rugby or American football.
And they're men. They're
And
like
yeah,
probably 18, 19, 20, like older than
you're
you.
probably 30 at this point.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I can do that. Like, no, I can't. I'm going to break myself. But here I am just doing things through trial and error. But thankfully, I had my parents to tell me, listen, your education comes first. No one's going to pay you just for lifting weight. And which at that time when I was 16, 17, that was very true. It was me trying to understand I at least need some kind of foundation education to get a career, because the gym was always going to be there. As much as I'd fallen in love with this weightlifting thing and wanted to build my physique as in the magazines I had seen, because when I was 16, 17, it was all a dream. It was all very much just fantasy, and it was me imagining, wow, it'd be cool to look like that XYZ. But it came down to slowly understanding this part of my life is pretty pivotal. I need to understand that I need some basic core competencies in education in order to build my career. And obviously at 16, 17, bodybuilding for me was just something recreational. I was just lifting weight, I was there trying to lift 405 with the worst form ever in my deadlift. Like my back could have broken. Like, but I didn't care. Like that was just me being stupid.
Looking back, rounded spine.
Seriously, that's what it was. No neutral spine. There was no glute work. It was just all lower back. But things began to take on a bit more seriously with regards to my lifting career when I moved to London, England, when they weren't, I guess, I didn't have the hawk eyes of my parents looking at me. And that's when I kind of thought, okay, I'm abroad. I need to balance both my education and my aspirations. So what do I do? And again, it came down to this, at least for me, it was this immense amount of pressure to perform within my education, because the investment had been made to perform and get this amazing degree. That's important. The gym was always going to be there, no matter what.
Yeah, that's super important to know when you recognize and respect the value of what certain X amount of years of education are going to bring you in comparison to certain X amount of years of something that just at that time makes you look good. There's so many principles around it making you feel good, and I'm sure you've experienced that too. How much did that make you accept that bodybuilding's not going to be this career choice? Because there's so many people out there who we believe wholeheartedly. We have the conversations a lot about, if you have so much passion towards bodybuilding, okay, well, now there's the route of you turning into a trainer full time. Now there's a route of you doing competitions. Now you're becoming an influencer. Okay, you're going down that path. Right. However, I understand too. I can't imagine what that might have looked like for you internally when your family, managed to give you this blessed opportunity to go into university years earlier than normal and go to a prestigious university, and you're in this like headspace of, okay, the ROI associated with me getting this degree and getting this job far higher of a return and far sooner than trying to make something out of myself in bodybuilding. So I'm wondering what that decision-making complex looked like for you at that time, because it sounds to me like even based off of bodybuilding still being in your life, and now you have another very comfortable, awesome job that aspires that business side of you, it sounds like you've come to terms with accepting that. And I just want to know, like, what were some of the conversations you had with yourself to allow to make that happen, or if there were any moments where it was a tough pill to swallow?